The S word. I'm sure there are many profanities that are rushing through your mind as you hear me say that. Sex, shit. I'm sure there are many more that are flitting through your mind at this moment in time. There is a word that society utters far less often than those examples. Suicide. We completely stigmatise that word and cringe after we say it or hear it. It isn't a dirty word. And if that's what you think, I'm sorry to tell you you're in the wrong place. Suicide happens, and it is happening, and we need to be able to talk about it. The 3 S words that are challenged in this piece are suicide, stigma, and silence. You're about to witness various first-hand accounts of what it's like to experience suicide. None of what you're about to see is fiction. These are extracts from real people telling their real stories. Every single word that is uttered is completely true. We didn't write any of it. It's all in their own words. Some of this may be difficult to watch and immensely emotional in parts, but bear with me because it's important. Before we move on to the individual accounts, I wanted to show you just how easy it is to get these conversations started. We threw together some questions about mental health and suicide and asked friends and family members for their responses. Why don't you think about how you might respond if someone close to you asked you something similar? What goes through your mind when you hear the word suicide?
I think it's a tragedy.
Death and sympathy.
I think it could be avoided if mental health was less of a taboo subject.
Have you ever lost a friend or a family member to suicide?
Yes.
I lost my grandma.
Depression and self-harm runs in my family, so...
Have any of you ever experienced a mental health issue?
The doctor actually...
I have experienced.
I remember
That was
really
brief.
wanting to talk to someone.
Friends and family have
Once
Like,
feeling
get
physically
addicted to them,
like I
struggle
couldn't talk to
with
anyone.
battling their mental health.
When was the last time you had a conversation about mental health?
Yesterday
Not that
morning.
long
about
ago.
2 months ago.
Maybe a
Friend.
couple of days ago.
Who would you speak to if you felt as though you were struggling with your mental health?
My partner.
My sisters.
My friends,
I talked
They
to my
asked me.
partner.
they
Smaller
they
mental
really
health
managed to
issues.
pick
No
me
one
up
else
and they
Picks
can
me
make
up in
laugh
a
and kind of
little
forget
ball
about the whole
and
thing.
lets
I
me
know.
cry.
Got my boyfriend,
in
Joke.
tears,
he,
like
he
university
empathises.
Eases my
friends.
He understands
frustration,
and do something about it
anger.
before. But really, I think it's best to be as open as possible.
This is the level of conversation that can occur when we can speak openly and unashamedly about suicide. When we're with people we respect and trust, the conversation can begin. Some of us are fortunate enough to have friends and family members who are open and honest about mental health. We're not afraid to utter the word suicide to these people. But not everyone is as fortunate. So often society smothers the thought of suicide and pretends that it's not happening. If it's not happening to us, then why should we think about it, right? Well, no, not right. So many people are being affected by suicide, and this silence is not helping them. We want these open and honest accounts to come to light. That's what you're about to see. The reality of what it's like after someone has lost a loved one taking their own life. These stories are brutally honest and maybe difficult to watch, but they're brave and they're important. To these people, suicide has completely changed their lives. They're sharing their experience with you in the hope that you can understand how it feels to be ignored and how it feels to be left behind.
My dad was an interesting character. He'd been tormented, really, by drug and alcohol abuse since he was young. You know, outside of that addiction, he was great. He was amazing. He was always he'd have to be the centre of attention. You know, always surrounded by friends and family and telling jokes, larking about. You know, I think just remembering him like that, it's kind of what keeps a smile on my face.
So what happened to him?
I don't know, if I'm honest.
My dad and uncle both committed suicide. My uncle was 6 months before my dad. After my dad died, I went off the rails. He was always funny. Always making me laugh.
I've never had to actually relive the scenario from start to finish. It's something I've actually found really, really difficult to come to terms with. So I don't actively relive it ever. You know, I think the inability to really talk about it is something that comes from a fear of questions, you know, and opinions from people, especially people you know. I've had to be responsible for myself for such a long time now that I know that I couldn't handle that. couldn't handle those questions that could break me down.
I lost my son to suicide after minimal indication. I found him dead.
He was an alcoholic when we were growing up. Then he got into drugs after Mum and Dad divorced. I like to think it was the drugs, and not him, that caused him dying. He probably just saw it as his way to escape, you know? To cope with what was going on. That day I remember thinking something just wasn't right. I remember I tried ringing, but it just rang through. Yeah, I always think that if I'd rung the week before and had gotten through, would it have changed anything? You know, you always think about what you could have done differently. But I was only 12 at the time. There's only so much you could do.
I still have many memories of him at his best. 15 to 18, he was alive.
I like to think that it was the drugs and not him that caused him dying. I'd like to think that he hadn't thought about it and it just happened. You know? I'd hate to think that he had thought about it, because he would have said, I'm going to leave my kids. That wouldn't have crossed his mind at all.
Suffering overpowered him. His lack in treatment resulted in him self-medicating. He could function, as he put it. Ultimately, this led to police involvement. This compacted his social anxieties. He made people aware of this, but felt as though they weren't listening to him. He always chose my goings away to indulge in drugs at home.
With illness, you have time to prepare. With a car crash, it's an accident. But when you know someone wanted to die, you never get the answer as to why or what was going through their mind in that moment. You'll never know why. There's so many questions, and you can only answer them yourself, really, or try and scrape a reason together.
I found him dead when I came back from holiday.
Did you experience any stigma?
I was too young. Way too young. People just didn't talk about it. Just wouldn't talk about it. So my experience was just silence.
Because we were so young, he's missed out on so much. He'll never see me get married. He never saw me finish school. I just think, you're such an idiot. Every milestone I've hit is another one he's missed. This next year will make it longer that he's been dead. for longer than I've known him.
The reality is, I don't want pity. I don't want special treatment. I don't want people to feel like they have to tread on eggshells when I'm around. And for such a long time, it's felt like I have this cloud, this suicide cloud that everyone can see, that makes them scared to talk about death, just in case it sets me off.
There is help out there. Who did you ask for help?
I haven't had any professional help. I've installed a mental trigger to make me think of happy memories whenever I feel a dark one or a flashback creep in.
I should have got help. I know that now. And every now and again it does come back to haunt me. But mostly I've had to just learn to deal with it and just live with it. Because I feel like if I got help now, that would be like opening Pandora's box. Kind of just made me who I am now. And I don't know the person I was before that. So
What would you say to someone who was contemplating suicide?
I know I wouldn't leave them till they got help.
If you commit suicide, all you're leaving behind is a hole. It will never be filled. No one can fill the void that you have left behind, because they'll never know why or what was going through your mind in that moment.
How has it left you feeling now?
My life has turned on its head. Everything's different. I am trying to be positive in every aspect of my life. Things I gave attention to before, I no longer give attention to. I now really know what's really important and what is not.
As his child, why was I not enough?
I believe he's in a happy place. I believe he is only loving and that his consciousness is still here.
It takes a lot of courage to say, I'm not okay. You can hide a lot behind a laugh and a bold character. But if you can say, I am not okay, this it takes off your armor.
I tried to commit suicide twice. Once was my second year of uni, and one more recently in December 2016. I'd frequently get into these large depressive states when I was at university, and I'd kind of just hide myself away, and I wouldn't talk to anyone, and I wouldn't do anything, I wouldn't eat, and I kind of thought the only way to make that stop was to end it. But you know, I couldn't even do that. So I ended up having a bit of a breakdown, actually, and I ended up calling Samaritans, actually, and they were really great. They were a lot of help. The second time, was more recently in December, and I'd graduated university, and I'd had to quit my job at just unsociable hours. It was all just a bit depressing, really, and I had anxiety and paranoia just kind of building off of that, and I shut myself away for about 4 days, I think it must have been. And my girlfriend at the time was actually trying really hard. She was calling, trying to find out if I was okay, trying to find out where I was. She got through to my mum, who basically kind of found me and coaxed me out of it. There is still a large part of me that wishes I had done it. But there's a large part that is equally glad that I didn't, because I saw the devastation that would have left for the people that I love the most. And knowing that you're, the kind of devastation you're going to cause to the people you love the most, friends, family, my girlfriend, just, I couldn't do that. Things are better now. I'm obviously talking about it more. I'm on medication, which is helping, so that's good. But yeah, things are getting better.
How open have you been with friends and family members about what happened?
Fairly. I mean, obviously there's still some sensitivity there, but it's better now.
And how would you speak to someone now who is contemplating suicide?
Even if it doesn't seem like it right now, even if you can't see it happening, there is help out there for you. You can get help, and there is a lot of people who still care about you. And no matter how dark this place is, wherever you are, things do get better.
My dream is to be a children's health nurse because I love working with children. I currently work part-time in a before and after school club. Unfortunately, due to my poor mental health, I've not completed my A-levels. I attempted them twice, but had to be pulled out of school on both occasions. I hope to go to college in September to do a health access course. I have attempted suicide twice. Before attempting suicide, my mood was continually dropping to the point that I felt lost and hopeless and confused. One night during my first attempt, I took something in the hope that I would never wake up again. However, it takes a long time to work, and although I felt drowsy, I soon started to panic about my mom in the room next door. What would she think or do? When she found me in the morning, I was terrified for her. She soon realized what I had taken and phoned for an ambulance immediately. I was on drip for a few days. I was in general hospital for 5 days, and I eventually agreed to be admitted to an eating disorder clinic due to being malnourished and underweight. My second attempt was prevented by my mom finding my diary and alerting the mental health crisis team. So I was sectioned under the Mental Health Act and sent to a psychiatric hospital. But gradually, I became well again and was diagnosed with BPD, borderline personality disorder. I believe that my experience has changed me as a person. I'm not the same. It's given me a passion for encouraging people to talk about their mental health. I now understand that there are a lot more important things. Health should always come before those things. I find it harder to talk to people I love, and actually find it much easier to talk about suicide to people I barely know. It's weird. I guess it's because I'm not afraid of hurting them or upsetting them in any way. I would want them to be concerned, to ask how I'm feeling. Ask if they can do anything to help. Hug me and tell me everything will be okay. Don't ignore how I'm feeling in the hope that it'll go away.
Have you ever experienced the taboo or silence that surrounds suicide?
Yes, absolutely, yes. Silence is a killer, but sometimes not saying anything at all is even worse than saying the wrong thing. It just makes you feel embarrassed and ashamed, and awkward. You instantly regret opening up. I have often felt suicidal at other times. During these times, I've reached out to the mental health professionals in my care. It's not that I want them to take it all away or make me feel better. I just need someone to talk to honestly, in turn relieve some of the pressure and guilt I feel. Medication has been a lifesaver, literally in my case. Antidepressants and antipsychotics have helped me immensely.
What would you say to someone who is contemplating suicide now?
This is not the answer, you know? You can do this. You are worth life. You are worth life.
Suicide is not an easy subject. Whether you have lost a friend or a loved one to suicide, or have been on the cusp of taking your own life yourself, the emotional aftermath is hard and has the power to change the person that you once were. The personal accounts that you have just witnessed are from brave individuals who are using their experience to help and to educate you about the realities of what it is to live with suicide. If you feel as though you're struggling, and if you're not sure you can find the strength to carry on, you are not alone. You have seen these two brave survivors and their message that it can and it will get better. There is life beyond suicide and beyond mental health, and you owe it to yourself to try. My message to you is to talk about it. Whether it's to someone you trust or to someone on the other end of a phone, a stranger, a Samaritan, or a friend. There will be someone in your life that will want to help. You are worth life.
You have a friend in me, so tell me the reason behind your misery. If you let me inside, then I will make you realize that you have got it all, you got it all, you got it all. Whenever you are down and you think that no one's around, then you are wrong. Oh, you are wrong. 'Cause I will run, run, run to your rescue, and I will be here when you want me to. And if you confide in me, I will confide in you. If you promise to tell me the truth, promise to tell me the truth. And there's no reason behind your doubts and fears, and if you would let me in, then I will make this clear to you that the grass is not greener on the other side. I won't walk away or turn around, I won't try to hide. I will run, run, run to your rescue, and I will be here when you want me to. And if you confide in me, I will confide in you. If you promise to tell me the truth, promise to tell me the truth.